Hello Internet, Taliesin here, and welcome to a very special Taliesin Talks. A Taliesin Talks that I've been looking forward to for a good while. A Taliesin Talks that I've given an unusual amount of thought, consideration, and dare I say it, self-reflection to. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our BlizzCon 2019 predictions video. And when I say BlizzCon predictions, I don't mean, oh, I think there will be a Diablo 4, or a Diablo 4 even, or I think there will be an Overwatch 2, or a new IP. I do, but they're not important because today we are only concerned with World of Warcraft, and in particular 9.0 and the new expansion, which is set to be revealed to the adoring masses of BlizzCon in just a couple of days, and I want to try and guess exactly what that reveal will tell us. And this has become quite the tradition on this channel. You might remember in 2017 when I predicted basically most of what was later revealed to be BFA, from the focus on the faction war, to the story, to the exact 2 new leveling zones, to where we'd be going in 8.2 and 8.3, to worldwide level scaling, to island expeditions, and allied races. Well done, Taliesin, you're a genius. 2018, not quite so successful, but forget about that because it's 2019 now, baby, and we have 13 predictions for the next expansion. So join us for our 13 predictions about the next expansion, okay? Go, 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 go. Right, so yes, I know I just said go, 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 and we totally will go, 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 go in like a few seconds, I promise. But before we do, I feel we should address the elephant in the room, because something is different about these new expansion speculations and predictions this year. It's not that me and Evie are hosting the WoW Q&A this year, although we are. I want to make it very clear that we have absolutely no insider knowledge at all. I have not been told anything about the next expansion by anyone who would know. No, the elephant in the room this year is those leaks. Now, leaks, or supposed leaks, aren't unusual in the weeks building up to an expansion reveal, certainly. And although this year has seen an unusual amount of supposed leaks, like seriously, over 60 from 4chan or Reddit or other forums in just the last 3 months, that in itself isn't a problem. And also, I'm not talking about images and logos that might seep out this week, because that's different. The actual week of Blizzard is a different beast. That's kind of expected. What's different this time is that there is one particular leak, now months old, an especially believable leak, which not only caught the community's imagination, but importantly was confirmed by a prominent member of this community to be real, citing Blizzard contacts that assured him it was real. And this is problematic for a couple of big reasons. I have no reason to doubt the creator. He's a straight up guy, which means he basically told us what the expansion was called and where it was set months ago. Now, my personal belief is that if you know for sure what the next expansion is that far in advance, like if you know a leak is real, then I consider it a bit of a dick move to tell everyone else that it's real. Because, well, firstly, it's kind of disrespectful to the creative team who have spent 2 years pouring their heart and soul into the thing. To rob them of their preferred way of revealing it, you're basically stealing some of their hype for your own hype, and that's not cool. But it's also not cool because it robs the community of surprise and speculation too. Like, unless someone has really pulled a number on this creator, which granted would be quite funny, but it's highly unlikely, then we have known the name and theme and possibly had a map for 9.0 before we had a chance to actually imagine any stuff for ourselves. And that's a big part of what makes being in a community like this fun for me. And it puts a prediction video like this in a really weird spot, because what do? Do I just say, I think the leak is real, end of video? Or do I make my predictions as different from the leak as possible, going so far as to change the numerous predictions that I'd already made about next expansion that line up with it? It's really tough, and it's something I've thought a lot about. It's one of the reasons this video has been so long coming. I've eventually decided that because of this big leaky elephant in the room, this video will be a tiny bit different from previous years. Whereas before I'd sit down and look at all the clues and evidence fresh and come up with predictions based on that, this year I'm going to do some of that, especially with gameplay systems that I think will be in 9.0, but also I will be reminding you of predictions and guesses that I've been making throughout the last year, sometimes two, which I am sticking by, despite all and any evidence to the contrary. And with that disclaimer out of the way, I am now finally ready to share with you my 13 predictions for the new expansion. Okay, seriously, for reals though, go, 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 go. So yeah, this is the thing that the leak has really supposedly ruined, which is super annoying because I don't think it had to be ruined. I think the big theme of next expansion was always, right from the very start of BFA, going to be one of two things. A big world-changing Black Empire expansion with a Cataclysm-like revamp of the entire old world, or a death-themed expansion. And of all the predictions I'm making today, this is the one that I most hope is wrong, because I would still love that Black Empire expansion. I'd love to see all of the old gods reborn and take over Azeroth and to live out all of my Lovecraftian tentacly dreams, and up until 8.3 data mining, I still might have believed it was coming. But Ny'alotha being a simple raid in the upcoming patch, and with broadcast text supposedly revealing that N'Zoth is vanquished and that everyone is kind of back to normal at the end of it all, the next expansion being a Black Empire world revamp is looking pretty unlikely at this stage, I would have thought, which only leaves, for me, the death option. Blizzard obviously pushed hard on this set out throughout BFA, with Drustvar and Thros and Samdi and his mysterious boss and Nazmir and, oh yeah, Sylvanas and the changing face of the Forsaken, all planting seeds in the narrative about what might be coming. And with the data mined new Death Knight skins and weapons, and I guess new starting experience, there seems to be a pretty strong Lich King connection there too. And of course, the Lich King lives in Icecrown Citadel, and Icecrown Citadel is a gateway to the Shadowlands. And Shadowlands is a pretty cool name for an expansion, so yeah, why not? I could totally believe that this is part of the next expansion, even if it hadn't been part of the original and more recent leaks. But of course, because of the leaks, that's not really any kind of prediction, is it? So allow me to get a bit more specific. And this is a prediction for the BlizzCon reveal of this expansion. Obviously, I'd expect it to follow the same sort of format as the BFA reveal, but whereas that had a gameplay trailer followed by the super high-res Battle for Lordaeron cinematic, just for lols, I think this time they may change it up a bit. So picture the scene. Ian, or whoever rolls higher backstage, comes out and says, yeah, I know you're all excited about the next expansion, and you know what? We've got something cool to show you. And it goes straight into that big cinematic, which, as we all know if we've been anywhere near the internet these last couple of days, features Bolvar, the Lich King. I'm going to guess that he has called the leaders of the Horde and Alliance to him at Icecrown, and they have warily arrived. Maybe we have Jaina appear, although that might be asking far too much. Definitely Anduin and Thrall, because they've already got models, and Bolvar is geared up and all like, listen boys, shit is going down. All is not well in the Death Realm. I can sense it, because I'm like the Lich King. And then, as he's talking, there's like a void portal that opens up, and void monsters and screaming spirits and stuff spill out from the Shadowlands and attack, and our three heroes lay it down, because you need some cool action. And then after the battle, Anduin is all like, oh shit, Bolvar, you were right, what should we do? And he's all like, our only option is to attack. Gather your forces. I've already gathered mine. And his eyes glow blue, and you realize there's a whole Scourge army surrounding Icecrown ready to go, and Anduin is like, attack? But where? And Bolvar is like, Shadowlands, bitches, the end. Either that, or replace Anduin and Thrall with Sylvanas, and she turns up to Icecrown to convince Bolvar to fight, but otherwise it's essentially the same thing. Bolvar is like, you are not welcome here, Banshee, and Sylvanas is like, yeah, whatever, I'm gonna need you and your army and your gateway to the Shadowlands, and Bolvar's like, why? And she's like, oh look, a void portal, you get the idea. And then we get the gameplay trailer revealing the new zones and basics and stuff, and I don't know if the Shadowlands map is legit, and I don't want to try and predict it, but yeah, I think the Shadowlands will be the main zone. Accessed via Icecrown, I think the story will involve plenty of Sylvanas and Helya and the deal they made back in Legion. I suspect we might not get as much new information about Elune as people generally think we might, but I also think there will be a larger old god presence there than a lot of people might be expecting. I think there will be whole zones given over to void corruption, and I think it will be a much bigger thing as the expansion goes on, because I think there are three main baddies this expansion. Muetzala, the big bad death guy, Yogg Saron, the big bad old god guy, and Sylvanas, the eventual big bad Lich Queen gal. And yes, I'm sticking with the Lich Queen thing just because I want it so bad, okay? I just really want it. And again, lots of that stuff is covered in the leak, so here's my real prediction about the Shadowlands zones, right? I think Blizz will use a lot more phasing to tell the stories of the zones, so that when you complete the storyline there as you level, there are big, noticeable differences that you have brought about in your questing. So like, maybe it's as simple as you build a big tower on a hill somewhere that you can now use as a base, or maybe it's something as big as you literally defeat a certain type of enemy in that zone, and they are not there anymore after you win the battle, being replaced by nasty wildlife instead for the inevitable world quests and repeatable content. I think Blizzard has the tech to do it. I think they've been edging towards that kind of thing. I think it would be awesome, and so yeah, why not? That is a totally genuine, legit prediction right there. Number 2. I think the Dragon Isles will also be a part of the next expansion. I think because of the leak, lots of people think it's going to be another leveling zone, like the Shadowlands, in the same way that Kultiris and Zandalal worked parallel to each other, but I'm not so sure. I'm going to put it down as a 9.1 or 9.2 and a whole new area to explore. And like with the Shadowlands, I'm going to predict a whole lot more old god stuff going on in the Dragon Isles than I think people are expecting. Because people always assume that the Dragon Isles are, well, full of dragons, and I think that's a pretty reasonable assumption. I think Blizzard will be more than happy to oblige by stuffing it full of dragons. I'm sure there'll be loads of cool Dragonflight stuff going on there, but don't forget, the original conception of the Dragon Isles is just as a place that has loads of old god temples on it. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is Blizzard's way of giving us that Black Empire R'lyeh stuff as a whole zone, rather than the slight cop-out that 8.3 turned out to be, with it just being a raid. And Blizz quite often carry over themes from the end of one expansion into the beginning of the next. The Orcs at the end of Mists of Pandaria, the Legion at the end of Warlords, even all the Titan stuff at the end of Legion going into the World Soul of Azeroth and the Chamber of the Heart stuff in BFA. So this would fit. Actually, maybe that means the Dragon Isles will be a leveling zone, come to think of it, but either way, that shit is voidy. Much tentacles, many excite. Prediction number 3. Okay, so this is where I get to start breaking away from those "we've ruined all your fun" leaks, because now we can get down to some specifics. I think the 9.0 pre-patch will be set in Northrend, fighting back invasion events from old god voidy things and or Shadowlands ghosty things that are spilling out from the Shadowlands, trying to gain control of Icecrown and get themselves a reliable gateway to the living realm. Maybe it'll just be one zone of Northrend, maybe it'll be the whole continent, but I think it's going to be big and awesome and probably have the story unfolding over a couple of weeks, like the War of Thorns did, where we work out what's going on and then Bolvar tells us what's going down and establishes Icecrown as our hub into the Shadowlands content for when the expansion starts. I loved what BFA Pre-Patch did for the way the story was told leading up to the launch of the expansion, and I loved how playable and repeatable the Legion invasions were before that expansion, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Blizz take the best parts of both those events and do this in Northrend. Plus, you know, it's Northrend, and everyone loves Northrend, and it's got the return of the Lich King, and everyone loves the Lich King, and it would be a really great way of doing Lich King stuff and giving people their Northrend hit without actually having to carry it through too much into the actual expansion. Kind of like how BFA Pre-Patch was all about Sylvanas and Anduin, but then you didn't really see much of them again until 8.1 or 2. Obviously, if I'm sticking with my Lich Queen prediction, which I obviously am because it's awesome, then obviously Bolvar is going to play a big part in the story eventually, but it's not quite the second Lich King expansion, and I think having Northrend as a pre-patch would be a fun setup. So as far as gameplay and systems go, what big changes will 9.0 bring? As I've been predicting since BFA began, I think we will get a new class in 9.0, and I think that class will be Tinkers. I think it will be a hero class. I think it will have a tank, a heal, and a DPS spec. I hope it would be a male wearing spec, but it could also be plate or cloth, depending on what hook Blizzard wanted to go with. I'd love if it were an intellect spec, because that would be funny, and I wouldn't be surprised if only gnomes, goblin, mechagnomes, and Vulpera could roll it. We've already established with Demon Hunters that Blizz have no problems being very specific when it comes to class selection for some stuff, and I think they're going to want to keep it to small people because of those mech suits though. Check out my now quite old video on the subject for more. But I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, but Taliesin, surely if this is indeed a death-themed expansion, then any new class It's going to be Necromancer, right? And I agree, that does make total sense. I'm even willing to go as far as to believe there may be 2 new classes, specifically to fit a 2-spec Necromancer in there. Why not? But not at the expense of Tinker. But I don't know, I think in the spirit of sticking stubbornly to my previous predictions, I'm going to say another new feature we'll get in 9.0 is... Again, I've got a whole video on this, but the idea is that we could be getting whole new reskins of existing classes to make them fit into different lore better for certain races. Some of the examples I use in that video are Kultiran Tidesage Elemental Shaman, Night Elf Spellbreaker Prot Paladins, Forsaken Dark Rangers, and yes, Necromancer. Now, I'll admit, this is a prediction that is based on absolutely no evidence at all. It's one that I'm totally expecting to be completely wrong, but it's what I would do if I were a dev, so I'm putting it there for my own enjoyment. Get over it. I don't think we've seen the end of allied races after BF8, but I do certainly think we'll see a slowing down in the amount that we get. Maybe 2 new races for each faction over the entire life of the expansion. And you want me to guess what those are going to be now, don't you? Well, fine. I think that Forsaken Night Elves is a nailed-on cert. They already exist in-game, and the player base would go nuts for them. I think Blood Trolls might find their way into the Horde roster, and I wouldn't be too surprised to see the Mogu pop up either, though I wouldn't like to guess what faction that they join. Oh, sorry, did you say factions? Well, I'm glad you brought that up, actually, because... lots of speculation about what is going to happen with the faction's next expansion. At the beginning of BFA, it looked like we were heading for a 3rd undead faction. We made a video about that. And that is totally possible and would be totally baller, with basically just undead or skeletal versions of every other race. But with the way the story of the faction war panned out in the end, I think more people would expect factions to be totally eradicated, and Horde and Alliance living together in perfect harmony and not even being Horde and Alliance anymore, rather one glorious whole. I think it'll be neither of those things, and I predict instead that Horde and Alliance will remain as factions, Horde and Alliance, and you'll have to choose which faction you want to play as, just like you do now. That's still how Battlegrounds and War Mode will work, but there will be a very selective relaxing of the rules regarding which race can join which faction. Now, that doesn't mean that every race is neutral like pandas. I think maybe you'll have to make the choice at level 120 whether to stay on your traditional faction or to defect with a short quest line to explain it. So, like, a Tauren would have no choice but to play to level 120 on Horde, but once they get there, they can choose to switch to Alliance if they like. And even then, not every race would have that option, but plenty would. Or perhaps the whole choice at 120 thing is needlessly complicated, and certain races, like Tauren, humans, Forsaken, Dark Iron Dwarves, Blood Elves, etc., will just be able to choose their faction when you create that character. I think that's what those grey faction symbols next to your character names on the character select screen now are hinting at. This, I guess, will be the lasting legacy of the Fourth War. It pushed the factions to the limit, to the extent that they had no choice but to make peace, and that peace shapes the very makeup of the two sides going forward. Oh yeah, and did I mention level 120 just then? Well, yeah, about that. It is no secret that World of Warcraft is planning a level squish. Ian has been pretty explicit about the idea as something that they are definitely working on, to the extent that I said in an episode of the Weekly Reset that I definitely thought it would be happening, that I thought it would be a halving of the levels from 120 to 60, coming as soon as 9.0, with the leveling experience then taking you from 60 to 70. And obviously I still believe the level squish is coming, but is it coming as soon as the next expansion? If I'm honest, I don't think it is. There has been a suspicious silence on the subject in the last couple of months, and there was that data mined 120 level boost, which I'm guessing will be coming for the 9.0 pre-patch, and yeah, that's when I'd expect the level squish to happen too, so the fact that it's a 120 boost doesn't really fit, does it? Also, the leak did say that the level squish had been put on hold, and so this is actually an example of where this stupid leak is making me kind of choose to be wrong on purpose, just so I don't feel I'm being influenced by it. So screw it, I'm going to stick obstinately to my original prediction, even though I don't think it's right, and say yes, level Squish is incoming in 9.0, and who knows, maybe we'll get lucky. After all, it certainly would be easier to do it while everyone is at 120, and then you can just halve the numbers. It's going to be a lot more fiddly to pull it off when everyone's at, say, 130 when it eventually gets implemented, right? Yeah, I'm going to keep telling myself that. I know, this is another thing that I don't actually think is going to happen this expansion, and I've never even predicted it in a video, but we've been chatting about it on stream recently, and honestly, the idea is in my head, so I'd like to bring it up here. I think player or guild housing will definitely happen in WoW in the next couple of expansions, even if it's a little bit soon for it now. I think it's just too easy a way to make repeatable, grindable content for it not to happen, frankly. You get your own little space to fill, and suddenly you need to fill it. So suddenly, professions are totally a new thing because they have got tables to make, and tablecloths, and curtains, and beds, and chairs, and chair covers, and pictures for the walls, and ornaments, and of course they've got to get the blueprint drops for those things, and the materials to make them from whatever content, which you could retrofit to every past expansion as well as current stuff. It's obvious, it's perfect, every other MMO already does it, it's only a matter of time before WoW gets it too. If it were to happen this expansion, I think it would take the meet you halfway form of being guild housing. A shard in Stormwind or Orgrimmar or the Shadowlands, where guilds can all hang out together and decorate with trophies and things just to ease us into that system. And even if that doesn't happen, something I do predict for 9.0 is a new, more involved guild experience, with the new guild finder that we know about, but also more achievements and cosmetic rewards for getting those achievements as a guild. So I guess that's my real prediction here. Guild housing maybe, more likely a more involved guild experience with more new stuff to do. I think tier sets are coming back, simple as. With the disaster of Azerite armor dead and buried, but not undead in the Shadowlands, let it rest, let it be at peace, okay? There is no reason not to have tier sets back. And I don't really mean tier transmog sets. I think those will most likely stay as one design each tier for cloth, leather, mail, and plate, respectively. No, I mean tier sets as in gear which awards a 2 or 4 set bonus. Blizz only got rid of them in the first place because with the Heart of Azeroth and 3 Azerite pieces, they felt a 4 or even 6 set would simply lock down too many gear slots, and they were probably technically right in their thinking. But the lack of tier sets has had a really negative impact on BFA, which has been full of awesome raids that no one can be bothered farming, not even me, and I love raid farming. But it turns out that tier sets and completing my tier sets were a massive part of what motivated me to farm current raids, and without them, that motivation is surprisingly absent. I think Blizzard must realize this too, and I think we will see tier sets return next expansion. I also wouldn't be surprised if tier set bonuses became content specific. So Mythic Plus dungeons awarded their own tier sets with bonuses that only work in Mythic Plus. Raids have their own and what have you. I think that would take away a major balance headache that we have now in the way that Mythic Plus is often the best way to gear for new raids. You know, people can be quite down on the AP system and would love to see it done away with next expansion, but I wouldn't be quite so quick to scrap it. I think it's been a pain in BFA with Azerite armor, but I think that's got more to do with how Azerite armor didn't work than AP as a concept. I quite like it in 8.2 with the Essence system, where your AP progress is constant and trackable, and I loved it in Legion with the artifact weapons. I think if you compare the way AP worked in those two expansions, it shows that it's really unsatisfying when you keep changing the gear it affects and moving the goalposts, but really awesome if it affects the same piece of gear that you keep for the whole expansion, grow attached to, and feel like you are progressing parallel to your character. And I think the Essence system for mains, if not alts, which is a separate issue, is awesome. I love the way that you have to complete different types of content to get all of your different, well, talents, basically. So I think those will definitely stay, and if Blizz are clever, they will combine essences with the artifact weapon, and if they are really clever, then they will do it with my crafted artifact weapon idea that I talked about at the end of Legion. Check out the vid. Imagine an artifact weapon that you progress and unlock ability slots for, just like Legion, except those gold ability slots are essence slots. like in BFA, which you fill by getting the essences that you gain by doing different content, and can swap out just like extra talents like in BFA. Add to that fact that it's a weapon that you have designed and named, and naming is very important in this, okay, and that you can collect appearances for, like in Legion, maybe whole appearances, or maybe bits of appearance. Like maybe a certain boss will drop a certain sword blade that you can then collect, like transmog, and apply to your weapon. Maybe crafters can make certain hilts or stave tops, but it gives you the best bits of the Legion system, the clear progression, the illusion of choice as to which traits you unlock and in which order, or maybe you have the choice, maybe there's not enough points to unlock the whole thing, so it becomes more like a classic talent tree, and combines that with the coolest bits of the essence system. Now, whether this is how Blizzard choose to do it, or whether they have a totally different idea, I don't think artifact power as a concept is going anywhere in 9.0, even if it's probably going to be named something different. These last two final predictions are super quick because I think they speak for themselves. They're kind of bonus predictions, actually. I'm not putting less class pruning as a prediction because it's not a prediction. Ian has flat out promised that, and no one can really agree on what it means anyway. But I will say, number 12, I think we'll get big class redesigns in 9.0, not quite to the Legion level, but significant. And I think we will see a return of class quests, maybe class-specific legendary quests for one or two classes over the life of the expansion. And I don't think we'll see a return of buying new spells from trainers, but I wouldn't be surprised to see us having to collect them from NPCs upon reaching certain levels or completing certain class quests. I'd expect to see the odd essence ability being linked to these class quests too. And finally, yeah, I think you'll be able to play Battle Pets on your phone, and I think it'll be connected to your in-game character and account. Please don't make me talk about this one anymore, thanks. So, there we have it, guys. My official 13 predictions for the next expansion. What do you think? Well, don't tell me now, there's no point. Wait a couple of days, come back and laugh at how stupidly wrong I was. That's a lot more fun. And you are totally right too. It's been a really weird couple of weeks trying to write this video because of the big Shadowlands leak a couple of months ago. And I just want to say, if it is real, then if you are the current or ex-Blizzard employee that leaked it, you're a dick. I mean, I get Blizzard totally dicked you by firing you or whatever, and that sucks. Blizzard suck. I'm on your side. But you didn't dick Blizzard. You dicked good, talented, hard-working people out of their moment of glory, and that makes you a dick. Whatever, we will soon find out exactly what the next expansion is. So join me and Evitel on our Twitch channel on Friday, where we will be playing new World of Warcraft content, hopefully 9.0, live from Blizzcon, and discussing all of the big opening ceremony reveals with you, which we'll also then put an edited version of up onto YouTube for you to watch if you don't like Twitch. Then join us on the official BlizzCon stream for the WoW Q&A on Saturday, because me and Evitel are hosting it. Yeah, I know, right? Then join us for the next weekly reset on Sunday, which will go over all of the juicy BlizzCon WoW stuff in front of a live studio audience and with special guests. Yeah, I know, right? Tickets for that sold out in less than 30 seconds. It's going to be awesome. So, T&E every day over BlizzCon, whether you like it or not. And I can't wait. But that's the future. I want to thank you for joining us right now. If you like this video, don't thank us. Thank our patrons who give their actual real-life money to make everything we do possible. Guys, without you, we wouldn't be able to hire a conference room at the Hilton in Anaheim for the weekly reset for a start, so thank you. If you didn't like it, downvote the shit out of it. Remember, my name is Wrath of the Bolvar. No, my name is Taliesin, from me and Evitel. Until BlizzCon, cheerio. Oh, and also, sorry, but there's blatantly going to be a dungeon where you have to go into, like, the Lich King's mind, because Bolvar is getting tortured by, like, ex-Lich Kings, and you're going to have to, like, see stuff that Ner'zhul's done and stuff that Arthas has done, and you have to fight them. That's definitely a dungeon. You know that, don't you? That's definitely a dungeon.